shift a bit. We're going to go straight into spoilers. So this is going to be spoilers for not only Mandalorian, but we're probably going to get into Clone Wars, Rebels, maybe original trilogy. Anything's on the table at this point with Star Wars. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, now's your time to exit the video or stop the video, and we're going to keep it moving to spoilers. So this episode gave us a lot in way of spoilers. I mean, I just want to run down the list, but I'm not going to, right? There's so much. So I can tell you personally, for me, I did not expect everything we got for the episode, right? You know, I'm kind of sitting there. We've heard rumors of Ahsoka. We've heard rumors of the casting of Rosario Dawson, who killed it, and we'll get to that ad nauseum probably throughout this whole thing. But we're sitting back, I'm watching the episode, and I'm thinking, I wonder how they're going to introduce Ahsoka. Is it going to be at the very end? Maybe she, pulls back her hood and she's revealed. And then Dave Filoni says, actually, it's going to be within the first 30 seconds. We're just going to come out lightsabers, literally blazing hot in the forest, and we're going to slice up some people, and we're just going to hit you with it. We've been teasing it for a while. We've been wanting bigger pieces to the lore. We've been wanting to see maybe some lightsaber Jedi action. We know it takes place kind of in that timeline where Luke is around, but we know he's not in the series. We want a Jedi. We got a Jedi within the first 30 seconds. What were your thoughts when you saw Ahsoka come in, lightsabers blazing?
Did not think it was going to happen. I didn't think this episode was going to be structured this way, which is great, right? I loved the change of pace. I feel like I imagined it kind of being a slow build to Ahsoka, and it was just there. It was just there. So my first thought when I saw Ahsoka was not in preference by saying none of this is bad, right? Like I expected to feel this. I had to take a step back because it's just so jarring when you see a character go from animation.
It was very weird for me for the first 5 to 10 minutes.
It was very weird for me. My initial thought was, is this what I imagine Ahsoka to be like in real life? And so I think at first, maybe the first 60 seconds, I was like, I don't know. And then the episode played on and that was gone. I was all in. I just had to get over that transition from going from animation to live action, what that looked like. I had to let that sit in for a little bit. And after literally probably 60 seconds, I was all in. I was bought in. I think Rosario Dawson killed it. I think I had to get used to her voice as well. I'm just so used to Ahsoka's voice.
Yeah, and that was one of the things in my mind I was trying to figure out. I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense that she has, a little bit of a deeper voice because it's been quite a long time since we've seen her in Rebels. But then I thought, it really hasn't been that long. I mean, it's 5 years after original trilogy, and we know Rebels kind of led right up to that time. So it hasn't been that long, but I think, with everything from live action or from animation to live action, there's going to be this natural weird sense, and then I'm sitting there wondering, like, are they going to be able to capture the physicality and how's she going to do with the manner of delivery of dialogue? And man, by the end of that episode, I was hooked, I was bought in, and I said, you guys did Ahsoka perfect.
The voice for me, again, when I first heard her talk, I had to again take a step back and like, oh man, that sounds different. But then, I had to think, animation to live adaptation, there are going to be changes. And sometimes you do have to suspend your disbelief for a little bit. And again, after 60 seconds of hearing her talk, I was all in. I think the lightsaber work was incredible. The one thing that I do notice is you can tell, not really a gripe. I loved the lightsaber work. I loved the action. You can very much tell this was not When you looked at the prequels and even the original trilogy, they would show lightsabers going through people. Even in Clone Wars and well, not so much Rebels, but Clone Wars, they would show lightsabers going through people. They would show that.
Yep.
This episode did try very hard to avoid showing lightsabers going through people. Like there was the one scene with the bell, but I think it was a bell. It was some
Yeah, it's
uh,
how they sounded the alarm that the Jedi is here.
yeah, right.
Which
And she
which was
sliced.
also a phenomenal way to
Yes,
start an episode. I mean, if you couldn't be more excited to see Ahsoka, just the entire way that they introduced her, this epic, like somebody's coming and you start to think like, oh, this must be some villain,
yeah,
and it's Ahsoka just slicing
yeah,
people up in the night.
yeah. Um, but you could tell though they strategically edited it so you didn't necessarily see anyone get stabbed with a lightsaber, or you could tell it.
And
So
I didn't even notice that. So that's a good catch. Now that I think about it, I'll
yeah,
pay
when
attention to it next
yeah,
time. So
the next time the,
that
the next
was
time
smooth by Filoni.
the next time, and it was good, no complaint, I enjoyed it. It's just something that I noticed, and
Yep.
I just wonder when it comes to Disney, how do they make those decisions? Because like Clone Wars, people got cut, lightsabers went through people.
Yeah.
I remember the episode where I believe it was Clone Wars where Maul killed oh my god, remind me of the name, Duchess Satine or
Yes. Yes, which was brutal in and of itself,
brutal,
just due to the emotional
brutal scene.
impact.
And so, you see that, and then I watch this episode, and I'm like, interesting. They are trying very hard to avoid showing Ahsoka. It was always a very quick cuts,
Yep.
very, she sliced somebody, but there's an object in front, so you can't necessarily see. Not a complaint, just something that more of an observation.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good observation.
yeah, but excellent, excellent episode. I think they did excellent with Ahsoka. Um, what's the name, Joey, of it? I believe it's, correct me when I say this, Montrals. Is that the name of the
Yeah,
Montrals?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I've heard. I believe they're also called Leku. I could be
Okay.
completely wrong, but
Okay. Well, if you all viewers, if you know the exact name of it, or if my pronunciation's wrong, please let us know in the comments. But um yeah, I did notice that those were a lot shorter. And then, Clone Wars, they had a lot of people from Ahsoka species. As they get older, those get longer. And so that was I just had to pause and think, well, I would think it would be much longer. Even in
yeah,
Rebels,
even in Rebels.
it looked like it was longer than it is now. But I know you had, informed me beforehand that that had a lot to do with
Yeah, I went ahead
just
and looked it up, and I forgot who on the production confirmed that it was simply because it wasn't practical whenever you're
right.
doing live effects and everything. And to tell you the truth, I would rather it be a little bit shorter
Yeah.
than longer and have to
Yeah.
CGI it in. I love the
Yeah.
way that they did it practical. And I've heard people complain a little bit about, oh, there's maybe some wrinkles in the foam. And I'm like, well, I mean, she's aging. She's aging
Yeah.
gracefully. So,
Yeah.
why not have a few wrinkles? But that was
Yeah.
the least of my worries. And then, I mean, whenever you want to talk about huge reveals and everything. So one of the things you and I have talked about is, does Disney Star Wars do the filmmakers, are they just milking Baby Yoda, the child?
Yes.
Do they know what they're doing?
They
And I
milked him for
agree.
12 episodes.
I mean, they really did.
They
They
milked him for
really
12
did. I mean,
episodes.
enough for us to think like, do they know what they're doing? Do they have a plan? Apparently, the resounding answer is yes, because we
Yes.
got another bit of information. We and again, I am going to go straight in, and I'm an adopter
Yeah.
of
Dive
Grogu.
in.
I will not be referring to Baby Yoda or the child anymore. It is full on Grogu. We need to
By
get
the
behind
way,
it.
by
I've
the
heard a lot of
way,
pushback and refusal to call it Grogu, but this is
let me
coming from a
tell you.
universe with names like Obi-Wan and Yoda and Yaddle, right?
Let me tell you. I love the name Grogu. I think that's
Yeah.
when I heard it, I was like, that's a good name.
Yeah.
That's a good name for me. It's catchy,
I mean,
and
he's a cute little green creature. I
yeah,
think Grogu is
it
definitely
worked
in
for
the
me.
realm of possibilities.
The name worked for me, and it's in the realm of of Groot and
Yeah.
Olaf and Grogu.
Well, if
It's
we
easy
end
for
up
little
getting
kids to
I
say.
am Grogu next episode, I'll enjoy it quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, think about it. It's easy for little kids to say,
It
right?
is.
You think about like my little babies and Grogu. I mean, it's easy. It's cute. It's easy.
Yep.
It works. So what were your thoughts about
Um,
Grogu and his story? Because they
Honestly, I couldn't believe it. It's very weird. Like so this episode was one of those episodes where, people use the term edge of your seat. Just seeing Ahsoka introduced, I was on the edge of my seat, and I pretty much stayed there for the entire episode. I wasn't able to sit back and relax. I was taking it all in. So Filoni wove a lot of things into this episode, and whenever you think Ahsoka is going to be in this episode, you might not expect all of the information that we got, all of the reveals, all in one episode,
well,
right?
they
So
gave it
it was
all.
it was it was they went hardcore. They said we're all in on episode 5, The Jedi. Filoni wrote and directed it, so I think it kind of felt like a pivot point for not only the season but the entire series. So the fact that we got to see Ahsoka, recognize this little species, and now again we know his name is Grogu, and she got to communicate with him through the Force. That's really the first time we've actually seen him be able to actually communicate with anyone. And again, I mean, he's small, but he's 50 years old. He makes a lot. He speaks in baby talk, so you don't really know how conscious, how aware. You see him using the Force a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
have
earlier
thoughts
on
on
in
that.
season 1. So and I'm sure you do, and we'll definitely get to that because I have some too. It's a little bit confusing, but
Yes.
I'm along with it. Star Wars always has some of those things where you have to suspend disbelief and just say, sure, I guess he's 50 years old, and sometimes he uses the Force, and
Yeah, I have a lot of
sometimes he
thoughts
hides
about
it, and
that.
does he
Yeah.
understand what's happening? So
Yes.
the fact that we got this beautiful, gorgeous shot at night in the forest with Ahsoka communicating telepathically through the Force with Grogu, being able to introduce who his name to Mando, who is taken aback, as I think most of us were, and just kind of looking like, wait, did they say Grogu is communicating? Oh, that's his name. So the look of joy on Grogu's face when Mandalorian says his name, because again, you consider the fact that since it was revealed that he was actually a student, a Padawan at Coruscant during Order 66, he probably hasn't heard that name in close to 30 years. I mean, he's almost like Obi-Wan, right? Like that's a name I haven't heard in quite some time. So he probably hasn't heard that name. So to hear his pseudo dad actually call him by his name, he was so happy, and I was so happy for him. So what was your take on the name reveal, and to me the even bigger reveal that during Order 66 somebody hid Grogu, and I want to know, where have they been? Who is it? And we'll probably never get those answers. Not that we need it, but it's fun to speculate. What did you think about that
So I
whole
had
scene where she's connecting with
my
him?
first question to you, you being the aficionado of all things Star
You give me
Wars,
too much credit, but I'll do my best.
have we? I personally have never seen, maybe other than the new trilogy, a Jedi essentially being able to read the mind of another Jedi to gather that much information. Like I know they can sense things, right? Like I can sense how you're feeling. You feel dark, you feel scared, you feel nervous. But she essentially was able to gather name, where you're from, your whole back. I mean, she gathered a lot of information. I've seen that done to that extent, I don't think ever. My question to you is that canon? How am I going crazy, right? Is that something that you've seen before, as being able
Um,
to literally sit down next to each other and I can read your mind? Is that level of, is it telepathy? Have you in canon?
so
That's my first question.
so to answer your question is, I think I have seen it in a comic somewhere. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know I can't remember a specific time
Mm.
where they've actually communicated via the Force. I could be completely wrong. So if anybody is screaming at us in the comics, of course you saw it here. I know in the sequel trilogy we saw
Yeah.
Kylo reach in and
Yeah.
you know take a look and say where where's the map. Ray can go back in. So it's kind of been introduced. And again, whether you've got your own
Yeah, that's
gripes
what I
on
said.
how that was handled
Yeah.
anyway. So again, there I think that that's something that has probably kind of been implied that you could do that with the Force,
Yeah.
but I don't think we've seen it as explicit. Two people just kind of looking at each
Yeah.
other and communicating back and forth. So
I
I
thought that was
think it's been
very
implied, but I
I thought
liked
that
it.
was I thought that was very intriguing. And
Yeah,
again, it wasn't a gripe, it was more so an observation. Like
yeah,
I watched that and I was like, man, I don't think I've ever seen this, whether Rebels or Clone Wars or any of the movies, two Force users communicating like that, having whole conversations without speaking. I know they can sense feelings and emotion and pick up on things, but he essentially communicated to her, this is where I'm from, this is my name, this is what happened during orders. I mean, she got the whole backstory.
yeah.
So again, that's an example, of Dave Filoni, adding lore, right? But doing it the right way, right?
Now, do you and let me pick your brain. Do you have an issue? How do you feel about the character of Grogu being connected with other pieces in the lore? Are you disappointed that he's not just some powerful Yoda species that happens to have the Force? Do you like the fact that he
This is a
ties into
problem.
the prequel era?
So I think it was handled well. I think it was handled well. I think Dave Filoni, it's expected he ties stuff together. That's kind of what his specialty is
Yeah,
at this point. Um, so with this, I didn't mind. Generally speaking, I do not like when Star Wars does this because it shrinks the universe. Everything has
yeah,
to be tied to something. This can't happen unless this happened. This character is only here because they're the daughter, granddaughter, uncle, cousin, niece to this person.
yeah.
And again, it just becomes this thing like, man, for such a big universe, everybody knows each other.
Everybody's related. Everybody
Everybody's really,
apparently you have to be born into the Force. Your fourth uncle twice
you
removed used
know,
the Force, so I think
yeah,
you've got it too.
yeah. So I mean, when you know, like I said, it was done right. Dave Filoni did it with care, but would it have been a better story if, say, Grogu was just a Force user and I don't know, there was somebody on the dark side, or somebody used a holocron, or somebody used something and they were seeking out other, Force sensitive children and they found them. And that's just it. Would that be more interesting? I don't know. I don't know, right? It depends on how the writers handle that and take care
Yeah,
with
I,
it.
I'm
But
I'm wondering if we're even going to revisit it, or is that kind of the writer and director saying, "Here's a little bit of backstory.
yeah,
That's all you need. We're going to keep it moving." Again, as
yeah,
a Star Wars fan who wants to know all the answers, right?
yeah,
It's kind of like, yeah, I really want to know who saved him, who hit him,
yeah,
where did they take him,
yeah,
how long did they go there? What
yeah.
did they do while they were
Let
there?
me,
And then who found Grogu and said, let's experiment on him. Like
yeah,
those are all questions that are intriguing to me, and I don't know if we ever need the answers or we'll get them. So
yeah. Let me tell you, and then I think we can move on. This is my only, if I had a gripe with this episode,
I mean, you
it's
you wouldn't be a true Star Wars fan without a couple of gripes in here, right?
yeah. I'm while I enjoyed the Grogu piece, I am confused because it sounds like he was in active training.
Yep. And I think we lost you, Ryan.
Doesn't necessarily know how to think for himself all the time, right? He has to be carried. So I mean, how young do Jedi's begin their training? Is this something they do at 3 years old,
I
2 year. I
mean,
mean,
in if you remember back to the Clone Wars, and I can't remember if I think we might have even saw a little bit of in Rebels. I mean, they start
I saw
pretty
kid.
young,
Yeah, I did see that.
so he would have been in. I don't know how long he would have been in the Jedi Temple at that point, but
Right,
when Order 66 happened, if the timelines line up, he would have been most likely around 15ish when
right,
Order 66 went down, because it's about like
right,
35ish, something along those lines, but
right.
at least that long, maybe
So,
not more. So
and
it's very interesting that they would bring that up. I've got to go back and check the age of the
yeah,
timeline, but he would have
that
been roughly the same age as
that's
Anakin.
what I was trying to figure out because
Yeah,
because I remember like the episodes in Clone Wars where I forget who it was, but essentially Palpatine had ordered that these Jedi younglings were
yeah,
force sensitive be taken,
yeah.
try to use them, and they were essentially babies, right? They were
Yeah,
young,
they
right?
were small children.
I'm curious, and this is more of additional research I need to do. What does that training look like for a 3-year-old, 4-year-old? What does that even look like, right? So that was my only thing. I was just kind of confused because when I heard Grogu was in the Jedi Temple, I was like, oh, so he was in training at 15? But for him, that's like what, like 15 days old? Like
Yeah,
what,
I mean, yeah, for his species that live to be, in the
y-
900s,
yeah.
that's just
So
a drop in the
um
bucket.
th- yeah, so that was my only thing. Just that was just kind of confusing trying to figure out. So I mean, okay, he was in training at really young. I mean, he can barely function by himself now.
Yeah, and
And
I think that was a little bit, once I actually sit down and think about it, I can again suspend disbelief, but it's one of those
yeah,
things where you kind of see him struggle to communicate and even
yeah,
sometimes to understand, or maybe
yeah,
maybe he fully understands Mando and
yeah,
just refuses to ignore him
yeah.
like most children do.
And I would
But
love
then
to
you
know.
consciously he then consciously suppresses the force as to not get caught. So he's conscious and aware enough
That's
that, hey,
what.
this
Yeah,
is dangerous if I start levitating things or using any sort of powers that I have. And again, at that point, it's probably minimal because
right,
I know Ahsoka mentioned the fact that, it's probably better to let his powers fade, which I would
right,
assume at his age, when you're young enough,
right.
they're not, I don't know if a
They'll
fully
fade
grown
quickly.
Jedi would fade, but I think that one might fade quickly. So
Right.
there's definitely some question if we want to nitpick and get into the details of how does the age and conscious level and what is he aware of, what is he not. So
Disney's not going to
that's
answer
an
that question.
I don't think so.
That's not going to be
No.
answered. But like I said, I
And
can
I'm
suspend
okay with
this.
it.
Yeah,
I'm in.
yeah,
I'll buy it
I
enough.
they gave me enough
Yeah.
to shut my mouth for at least the rest of the
But
season.
again, you
So,
you wouldn't be a true Star Wars fan if you didn't ask those
and
questions.
it's not so much of a gripe than it is just an observation and just
Yeah.
curious, right? Like I heard that, and for me, it was like, man, that's interesting. So, what does Jedi training look like for a 15-year-old baby Yoda, which really for that species means 1-year-old?
Yeah, and
Like,
I think she said several masters trained him. So I'm thinking,
and
I wonder
and
what that looks like. Yeah, that's
right.
intriguing.
So that was really it for me. But it was well put together.
Yeah.
It took my excitement level in the series from high to higher. I'm now interested to see what comes from this. We now know that he's going to a Jedi temple,
Yeah,
right?
on
That's
Typhon, which I've never played any of the old Republic video games, but I know all of our fellow Star Wars fans are freaking out. Apparently, that was in the old Republic video games, and it's being made canon now. So that's pretty intriguing. And honestly, I think that was really cool for me to hear. I love the prospect of Mando traveling to a Jedi temple. I can't wait to see what that looks
that
like,
sounds very
feels like.
intriguing.
Yeah,
Very intriguing. Um, yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what that looks like. Now, what I'm curious about, there's just so many places this can go. Like
yeah.
he's going there. Moff Gideon is still after him.
Yeah, they're the
So
tracker is still on the Razor Crest, and I know we talked last week about maybe, is there going to be some epic showdown with Ahsoka because they might track him to
yeah,
Ahsoka's planet? But as we know, that didn't happen this episode, but that
Yeah,
tracker is still on the Razor Crest. So they're going to a Jedi temple. I wonder if the next episode, episode 6, is where a showdown happens.
maybe.
Maybe Grogu is kidnapped. Maybe he has to reach back out to Bo-Katan, or some of the allies that he's made to help.
What's
So it's very intriguing
interesting,
to see where we go with that.
what's interesting is that we know Grogu has is more powerful than what he has shown thus far because he has suppressed
Yes.
his power. So what would be interesting to me is to see, is there is there any time where we're going to see him this season explode? Because we know Yoda.
Grogu Unleashed. Yeah,
Well,
that would be
well, well.
fantastic to see.
Think about it. Yoda's 800 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
About
think he
800.
dies right around
Right.
900.
So 900 Jedi Knight, essentially, right?
Yeah.
At 900, think about how powerful Grogu actually may be. He's just suppressed that power. So, what is there a possibility we may see him unleashed, right, in some capacity?
Now,
Um,
and the intriguing part is that's if he chooses the path, right? So
right,
Ahsoka said, place him on the Seeing Stone. He
right,
can choose his own path, and
right,
maybe a
right,
Jedi will reach out in the Force, feel him, and come looking for him.
right.
And then she says this really poignant line of, there aren't many Jedi left, which that really hit me. I know when she mentioned about not wanting to train Grogu because of what she's seen happen to fully trained Jedi Knights, and she's speaking of Anakin. She's seen many of them fall to the dark side. So that really hit, that really landed for me. So I'll be interested to see if Grogu decides to use the Force. What if he says, you know what? I really don't want to become a Jedi. I'm going to become a Mandalorian. Or,
The-
so it could go any number of ways. That would be so cool to see
can I
little Grogu in his Mandalorian outfit.
can I throw something out?
Of course.
I'm gonna throw out a name. Thrawn.
Oh, never heard of him. What is he? Is he big in Star
Thrawn.
Wars or something? People get excited about
Thrawn.
that.
Thrawn. That for me, that name drop, single biggest thing for me that I've heard.
And I can tell you, I did not expect that at the beginning of the episode.
I did
It
not
wasn't
expect.
even on my radar.
You know what I thought? I thought she was going. I thought the conclusion to that was going to be her actually looking for Ezra. That's what I
Okay.
thought. That's what I thought. That's what that was. I even thought that maybe one of the people that the other group had captured. I had thought maybe one of them was Ezra or knew where Ezra was, and she was trying to get them released to get. I thought it was going more so in that direction,
Yeah.
but I did have a feeling there would be some tie-in to Rebels in this episode. Didn't think it was going to be Thrawn, but for me, that name drop is the biggest thing that's happened in
Yeah.
this
See, and
entire
I didn't
series.
think that they would go that far. And again, it's mostly because we've talked about this before, even outside of the show, that it always kind of feels, this show is such a slow burn. There are little reveals, but there have been very few episodes that feel as if this is a different show, or this is launching us into something completely different. And between all the characters that we got in this show, and then to end it on the fact that she is still actively looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn, I didn't see it coming.
Let
And
me
to
tell
your
you,
point, it changes where this can go if we even see it in this show. There have been rumors
yeah,
that Ahsoka's going to get her own show. So you don't it's not even a guarantee it shows up, but I can tell you it's
yeah,
for sure very interesting.
yeah, I had a feeling last week, and we talked about it last week. I had a feeling that Ahsoka, it was going to be something transformational.
Yeah.
Um, and I just you don't have Dave Filoni direct this episode. You don't bring in Ahsoka into this show unless what she is going to bring is going to be that moment that completely changes the way we look at this show. And what we got from her, we learned about Grogu. We now probably have, in my opinion, the most interesting mission that Mando has been given, going to a Jedi temple and
Yeah,
having
I can't wait
Grogu
to see that.
choose his path and reach out to other Jedi. And we got we got the Thrawn reveal, which now ties in Sabine Wren,
Yep.
Ezra, and all of Rebels. And so this one episode, Ahsoka did all of that.
Yep.
And now it's just a question mark in a good way. Where's the show going? Right? Is this show now shifting to be about Thrawn? Is Thrawn running things, or is this setting up Ahsoka's own standalone show?
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
we've all heard rumors of the Filoni verse, right? That's kind of your like your Marvel cinematic equivalent. I mean, there's so many characters that Filoni created that we could follow. I mean, literally, and we went ahead and introduced the potential all in a 46-minute episode. So I know you mentioned earlier in the show that this was by far your favorite episode. 100% agree. This is my favorite episode. Not even just for how it was handled, but look at how much fun it is to be a Star Wars fan and speculate again. Right? It's been a long time since we've actually been able to kind of sit down and really have fun thinking, wow, this property could go anywhere, and in terms of at least live action, right? So it feels like everything is on the table for this show, and whether it goes to any of the directions that we've talked about or not, I'm still all in, and I have faith that they're going to handle this material in a way that's authentic and fun and exciting. But I can tell you, it is fun to dream about what you're going to get in the next couple of episodes, and really, again, what it means for the rest of the series, which is very cool. And again, Ahsoka might get her own show, and that might follow Thrawn, and Mando still comes over here. But the interesting thing is, do you do you think that what do you think Gideon's relationship to Grand Admiral Thrawn is? Do you think they're working together? Do you think they're working in competing? Does he report to him? How do you feel about that?
Yeah. That is the wonderful thing now about the Mandalorian. That's the wonderful thing, right? Like now, because before it was just such a linear story,
Yeah.
right? It was just linear, right? You do this, you go here. You do this, you go here. You do this, you go here. Now there's depth, right? Now we have introduced two villains essentially, right? Now Baby Yoda has more depth. Now, right? There's just so much more potential for other characters to come in. And when I think about it, I don't know if you remember this. Bob Iger had actually said before this season started that this season will have the potential for other characters to have spin-off episodes or spin-off.
I
I
didn't
don't
remember that exact quote, but that sounds like a very
that
Disney
he
thing to
I
say.
will yes, I will actually I'll find the article
Okay.
and I'll send it to you and I'll try to post it with this video so that everyone else can take a look. But um yeah, he had mentioned that. And so there's just now it's not a linear story anymore, right? I don't know if Thrawn and Moff Gideon have a relationship. I don't know if Moff Gideon was uh was a subordinate to Grand Admiral Thrawn and he broke off and is now trying to compete against him, right? And
And I think
overrule
and
him.
any one of those scenarios sounds very exciting to me. I'm glad to
Yeah.
see where any
Yeah,
of
I
that
mean,
goes.
it could be very similar to how like in Clone Wars, Darth Maul essentially was trying to overrule the Emperor, and so I could see that. I could see them working in tandem. I can see Moff Gideon breaking from underneath Grand Admiral Thrawn's rule and trying to essentially run his own show. There's just tons of possibilities, which is what makes this exciting. It's not a linear story anymore. I mean, they could continue to structure it
Yeah,
that way,
it's entirely
but
possible that we never see
but
them
there
again in The
are
Mandalorian.
they have now opened up the possibility for
Yeah.
non-linear storytelling.
And I feel like Filoni and Favreau are the type of people that really understand what Star Wars fans want. And I give them more credit than all of this just being a tease without anything being fleshed out. So if there's one thing that it seems that we are getting with them, which is the most exciting part, it's payoff. It's we
Yeah.
introduce something, and whether it's in the, whether you get that answer immediately or if you've got to wait a little bit,
Yeah.
you'll eventually get that answer. And I think that that's been one of the things that was so disappointing maybe to some of the sequel aspects of the movies is, all of these theories, well, none of them are true, right?
Right.
So to have this show be something that, again, they haven't done anything yet to have us not bought in, to say, we're probably never going to get payoff.
Yeah.
It's the opposite for me. It's I
No, they
can't
pay
wait to
off
see where
everything.
they take this. And again, it'll probably be in the long run, because we've still teased Boba Fett, haven't seen him again. He was,
Yeah.
according to online, he'll probably only be in that one episode, but we may see him down the road. Same thing with Bo-Katan. So the possibilities are endless, and I think that that's the most exciting part about this show for being a Star Wars fan. Being a Star Wars fan is 90% speculation, and really the other 10% is actually sitting down and seeing what you get. So
And
that's where the fun begins.
you never, yeah, you just never know with Star Wars. I mean, I believe everything that we've gotten thus far is going to be paid off. Dave Filoni is the payoff king. So
Yeah.
whether that's this season, whether that's next season, whether it's in a spin-off series, whether they do a reboot or not even a reboot, an additional season of Rebels and they bring some of those characters back, we're going to get eventually. So yeah, man, I think overall, really, just really,
Yeah.
really great,
Really
great
solid,
episode.
really fantastic episode. I know you gave a rating earlier on. I give it an 11 out of 10. And trust me,
Yeah,
I know fractions, that was done on purpose. This was a great episode for me. I dug every part of it, and I loved seeing Ahsoka in live action after that little bit of a weird period of seeing her. It's every I you know it's she nailed it more than I even thought that they could, which is fantastic. And one of the things that made me really excited is going online and just seeing the stills of her, where it looks like it could have literally been, straight from the Clone Wars. It's something you could put on a movie poster, and
yeah,
that's how cinematic this episode was.
yeah.
So I think we're in agreement. Rocked it out. Excited for the rest of the season. Anything else we
Oh,
want to cover today? I think we talked about a lot today.
I think we talked about a lot. It's a great episode. Excited to see where the where the rest of the season goes. Three more
Uh,
episodes.
couldn't be more excited. Three to go, and then we'll have to wait a whole year to see the rest. But again, I'm sure we'll get a lot of payoff. So thank you guys for joining us. This has been a ton of fun. It's always fun to speculate. So if you like what we're doing here, make sure to like and to subscribe to the channel. We can keep giving you all this great content that you want. And again, in the future, we'll expand to more than just Star Wars, but we're more than happy to speak about Mandalorian for now. So one of the things I want to leave you guys with, as always, we're trying to build a community here. So we want to hear from you. Who do you think is going to actually, I guess, kind of get in contact with Grogu whenever he reaches out to the Seeing Stone? We know that there are a few Jedi alive here. I know there's Luke out there, Ezra, maybe even Cal Kestis from video games, right? So I think anything's on the table. Leave in the comments who you think is going to reach back out to Grogu. And until next time, may the
Thanks,
force be
everybody.
with you. Thank you, guys.